one of the ladies was having an issue with a jam or something, and instead of just like leaving it and letting me, I think she thought that she was going to be embarrassed or something because she couldn't clear her weapon, and so she was trying to finagle with it real quick before I got there, and all I heard was a pop, and I was like, and so instantly I was like, hey, hey, who's in the, who's firing their weapon? Because I was checking all the lanes. And I come out of the box and look down, and she's like standing there, and she's like holding her hand, and it's just like bleeding.
What's up, everyone? It's the Talk About It podcast. I'm Loren Follmer.
I'm Victor Dantas.
We got a fun episode today. You get the opportunity to sit down with Justin Lipes. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. We've had on the calendar a little over a month.
Yeah.
I've known you for a couple years and absolutely enjoy most times we get to sit down. It's usually a couple laughs and some good talk. So I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you just take a little second here and just kind of introduce yourself? Who?
Well, I mean, I lived in Monmouth for the past 10 years or so. I just moved over to Iowa recently, last July. So, we're really enjoying it. But, I was born and raised in Roseville, Illinois. So most of my life I've been here other than traveling around for the military. So, I spent about the last 15 or 16 years in the Army National Guard, making some changes there now that I live in Iowa. But, yeah, a lifelong Illinoisan and finally made the move and just, trying to get a new start, a new beginning, and see where it takes us.
Mm-hmm. Why did you want to move from Illinois?
The policies mainly, regulations and policies, taxes. We just, where we moved is only an hour to the west, and, things change significantly when you cross that bridge.
Sure. But you're also a business owner.
I am,
yep. So you have what's called the Tac Shack. It's a gun range. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I still have the Monmouth gun range. I also have a Tac Shack in Peoria, and then we have Good Shepherd Defense, which is probably one of the top trading companies in the state right now, especially in the Midwest.
Cool.
Doing very well. Also, right now, is this real wood here? We're in the process of maybe possibly selling the Monmouth one, so we're really excited about that. Really excited for the possible new owners. I'm not gonna name drop or anything like that, but things are looking good. That's one step closer for us to kind of solidify our move to Iowa.
Yeah. Well, why don't you talk about that? The Monmouth location, you had that built, right?
I did.
Yeah. So talk us through that process. What was that like, getting a gun range built?
Yeah, because I started in that little tiny building on Euclid, and literally it was a shack. And that's kind of where the Tac Shack came from, because when I first got in the business, I remember talking to somebody, and they were like, well, how are you going to get into it, and how are you going to compete? And a lot of people said, well, you need to have a niche. You need to, instead of trying to compete in the whole market, you need to pick out a niche. And whether that was right or wrong, right? I did it. I picked, and I was like, I'm going to go tactical. I'm going to focus on law enforcement and the tactical side, military people. That's who I'm going to try to draw in. Where, looking back now, I don't know if that was the best move for me, from a business standpoint. But I was young and I was new to business, and I did it. But the Tac Shack kind of evolved because, as that business grew, and I quadrupled my inventory, I think, in a couple of years, right? And that was kind of like my first goal, my first sign was like, hey, I'm going to keep growing and keep putting my money back into the business, back into the inventory, marketing, things like that. So as it kept growing, I'm like, wow, I'm outgrowing this place, right? I'm going to need something bigger. And one of the biggest complaints with people when they would come in was, I don't have anywhere to shoot, right? Because it's a rural area, but unless you're a farmer or you own ground, you don't have anywhere to shoot. Like all the people in the city, that are in the city limits, even all the towns around here don't have anywhere to shoot. Mm-hmm. And so people would come in all the time and they'd be like, oh, I would love to buy this, but I don't have anywhere to shoot it. Mm-hmm. Or I'd love to buy that, but I don't have anywhere to shoot it.
Right.
And so it just kind of was like, wow, maybe I wonder how it would go if I built a gun range, And honestly, I really wanted to build it in Galesburg. I was actually looking at Galesburg and Burlington first. And then I think out of my own selfishness, I was kind of like, wow, it would be great if I could put it in Monmouth because I live here, right? And I could just drive down the road and go to work. Like, that's the American dream, right? Or, if you're not working from home, I guess. Like, wow, I'd just love to just drive down the street and go to work. So that's kind of where it started. And I also thought, Monmouth is in between Burlington and Galesburg. So maybe that would be smart. Maybe I would pull from all those areas. And we did, and we still do. We have customers from all over. So I'm very thankful for our customer base. Very loyal, and we draw people from all around. I mean, from down, Macomb, even south of Macomb, all the way up to the Quad Cities. People from Burlington, Galesburg, Canton, as far over to the east as Canton, and even Peoria. Actually, I had a guy come in and get some stuff from Peoria, and I was like, I have a shop in Peoria, right? He's like, yeah, but I like this one. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Nice.
And do you sell guns there as well?
Yep. Yeah, we have a pro shop and 8 lanes. 25 yard.
Talk about those lanes too, because obviously that takes a certain thickness of walls.
Yep.
You have to be conscientious of noise,
Yep.
different things like that. What was that like?
You do. The noise was a little bit of a struggle, but we got it. But yeah, the walls have to be either like solid filled CMU block, 8-inch block, or solid poured with rebar. So the range company, we actually had a range company build it. So it wasn't like I just went in there and like built it all myself, right? I hired a range company so that everything would be on the up and up, and everything would meet the standards. And it was kind of one of them things where you pay more probably doing it that way, but all the headache was on them. It wasn't on me, right?
Right.
When it came to getting the licensing and dealing with the zoning and dealing with all the red tape stuff, like that company did all that. And that's kind of like what I paid them for,
What's most popular in a shooting range for like handguns? What type of gun are people most using in a shooting range?
Mostly now, since concealed carry came about in Illinois, so it's concealed carry heavy. You'll have focus on like hunting season, right? You'll have an influx of people coming in and sighting in their hunting shotguns. Now rifles, because we have the straight wall cartridges like the 350 Legend, the 450 Bushmaster, 400 Legend, that kind of stuff is.
Do you know what any of those are?
Nope.
Yeah,
Me.
so
Me
they're
neither.
just.
I'm not a big gun guy.
Illinois
so
did pass, recently though, where you can rifle hunt now with these certain cartridges, with straight wall cartridges. So they won't let you hunt with anything, but specific calibers you can rifle hunt now, which is a big leap forward for Illinois because it's always been bow and arrow and shotgun.
That was it.
And pistol too, like wheel guns.
I think you can hunt with a crossbow now, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to say they changed that a couple years back.
And it's like they did change it, but before that, I think you still could if you had like medical,
sure,
certain medical restrictions and stuff like that.
Sure.
I'm not a huge. I definitely did bow hunt, but I don't keep up on those laws just because it doesn't. I'm not in business in the bow, so I don't really follow it.
What's your favorite to shoot?
Me, I'm a long range rifle guy, so I just built. I'm a big fan of the 6mm bullet, but I just built 2 new rifles this year: a 6mm arc and a 6.5 Creedmoor. And I love laying down in the prone on a nice day, shooting 600, 800,000 yards. I enjoy that. I used to enjoy running and gunning, 2-gun, 3-gun competitions, USPSA, pistol stuff, but I'm 44 now, man. I like to lay on my belly. I like to lay on my belly and pull my bolt back and stick another one in there and chamber it and kind of focus on the shot and take the shot. The running and gunning days for me are probably close to being over.
Sure.
Now, is it legal for someone to just have land and shoot?
Yep, in the county, and and those laws are going to vary based on what county you're in and where you live. But here, absolutely, yeah. In Warren County, you can shoot on your land.
Okay.
You can't just shoot a deer or
not out of
wildlife,
season,
right?
And not without the right
tag,
without the tags and the right weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you'll get DNR. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's when you get the IDNR involved, that'll be a whole other issue.
Yeah, you don't want that.
We don't deal with any of that. So no.
Have you ever had any accident happening at the business?
Yeah. Like I said, I won't name drop, but we did have an accident. I probably had the range open for a couple years at the time, and a regular customer, super great person. Actually, it was a customer that became a friend over the years. A female, and she's actually a good shooter. She just had an incident. She just, and that's the thing with firearms is you always got to respect the firearm, and you always have to, be cognizant of what's going on, because what it was during the shooting leagues, I was running the league that night, and it was a female-only league. And we call it like the box, like the lane where you step in and you have the armored sides, right? So you can't shoot through the sides. So you're safe there. The firing line. So what would happen was in between firing iterations, I would give them a command like, okay, lock and clear your weapon. They would set it on the table, and then I need you to step out of the box, and then they would step back out of the box, so that way I could go one by one and visually inspect their weapons to make sure they were unloaded. Well, one of the ladies was having an issue with a jam or something, and instead of just like leaving it and letting me, I think she thought that she was going to be embarrassed or something because she couldn't clear her weapon, and so she was trying to finagle with it real quick before I got there. And all I heard was a pop, and I was like, and so instantly I was like, hey, who's in the, who's firing their weapon? Because I was checking all the lanes, and I come out of the box and look down, and she's like standing there, and she's like holding her hand, and it's just like bleeding. Yeah, she blew her finger off.
Really?
Yeah, she blew her finger off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No,
I ended up like ripping my shirt off and using it as a bandage and using my shoelace as like a makeshift tourniquet. So yeah, until the ambulance got there.
That's wild. But
Now I part of my EDC, my everyday carry, I actually carry a tourniquet with me almost every single day. So because
you never know.
Well, I carry a firearm, right? So if something bad goes down, I want to be able to I have a tourniquet just in case.
You said EDC?
Yeah, everyday carry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never heard that term before either.
That is crazy. What about insurance stuff? Like, are you liable for anything that happens in there?
It wasn't. I mean, I suppose anybody that's.
You have some waivers.
That's like law jargon, right? I mean, I don't know because I think anything can be defeated, I guess, if you pay enough for an attorney.
Sure, but you have some waivers, I'm sure that.
And she had signed a waiver.
Yeah.
I mean, and she went publicly. She's super cool. I mean, she went publicly on Facebook because people were like, "Oh," I remember at the time. I don't remember what was being said, but they were like, "Oh," and like she literally was on there like the next day and was like, "Hey, this was my fault. Like the Tac Shack's not responsible for me. I didn't do what I was told, and I didn't follow the rules." And I mean, she's a super great lady, but yeah, I suppose she could have, she could have been like. Tried to make it my fault, I guess, and got a lawyer, and I don't know if she would have been successful, but she was a pretty good person and just accepted the responsibility and went on down the road.
Yeah, firearms are nothing to mess with. I mean, we all know that, but I remember it was my sophomore year in high school. I had a buddy who pumped up the air rifle, and they shoot BBs or pellets, right? We never loaded it. He pumped it up and shot it at the car, the house, the sky, each other. I mean, he was messing with this thing for probably a half hour. And I was skateboarding up and down the driveway, and I'm walking back up with the skateboard. And he pumps it up, and he puts it right up here to my head. And it was kind of like, I mean, I'm 16 at the time, You're like, what's up, blah, blah, blah. Boom. And he pulled the trigger, and I felt no pain whatsoever. It threw my head off to the side, and I thought like it was just the pressure, right? Just the air. And I was like, dang, that. And all of a sudden he was like, just turned completely white and froze. And I could see the blood. It went through a vein and an artery right here and was just clearing my shoulder. It was nuts. I got a picture. I'll show you.
And was it from the air?
No, a pellet.
Was in there?
A pellet was in there and never came out of the previous, 15 plus shots.
Oh, so he never like actually checked it to see if it was empty.
No.
It just, nothing ever came out.
Nothing ever came out. It literally pumped and pulled this trigger multiple times without ever loading it. And one came out that one time.
Never point a weapon, especially at someone's head.
Well, I know that now.
That's crazy.
I mean, we knew that too probably, but it just was young and dumb. And incredibly fortunate. I'll show you guys a picture when we get off the air.
Man, you are fortunate.
My head is whole wrapped up, like everything but this.
I do have to see that. I do have to see that.
The best part is my brother, he was graduating high school that year, so he's in his cap and gown, and I'm like standing next to him with
your head all wrapped up,
completely wrapped up. I remember my parents were like, "Get in the picture with him." Like, I don't want to get in the picture, but yeah, very fortunate. And still to this day, I'm very, very uncomfortable around guns ever since then.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, that's understandable.
I'll do the clay pigeon, right? Like the trap shoot. My family has some of those out in the country, and I'm surprisingly pretty good at it.
Yeah,
have you ever done that?
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. But yeah, so these little clay discs get fired out. You can throw them, or they have a machine. Yeah. And then you just shoot.
You just shoot them while they're moving. It's like simulate like a.
It's a ton of fun.
Like a waterfowl. Or
I've shot a couple of times, but I would like to do more. I've always been against guns too, but because I came from a country that is very dangerous, so we don't like guns there.
Yeah,
because of being.
It's definitely knowledge is power, right? I mean, guns they're an inanimate object, right? And they get blamed a lot of times when they're misused, but. I mean, it comes down to the people, right?
Absolutely.
It's a people problem.
It's a people problem. I've felt that. Right. I mean, you can eliminate, there's certain places in Illinois the handguns are illegal, and I'm pretty sure that's where the most of them are. So it's not, I find it hard to believe the blame, like we need stricter laws. I mean, we have laws against many different types of drugs. We have problems nationwide with drugs, so,
Absolutely.
But I think it's quite often it's easy just to blame the gun.
Right.
When
like I said, it's an inanimate object. So, I mean, if you set it down, it's not going to just run off and start shooting people,
Sure.
It just doesn't work that way. But, I mean, everybody has their own feelings about that. And I got mine, and I'm kind of I have convictions about, what a person should be able to do and what they shouldn't without the government being involved. But everybody has their own, I guess.
Well, even the concealed carry, you have to go through a class, right? And you mentioned something Shepherd.
Yeah, Good Shepherd Defense.
Good Shepherd Defense.
We do that there.
Yeah, so you have people sign up. They have to take a class, get trained, probably something like Victor and I would want to do before we start carrying. I mean, that would be silly.
And it's a 16-hour. I mean, it's a two full day, 16-hour course. And we actually have a fundamentals course that's actually great. I don't recommend anybody just jump into the concealed carry without having some kind of prerequisite. And that's where that fundamentals class is great too. And we have different varieties of those. But Good Shepherd offers a very basic fundamental course, which is awesome for someone who has virtually no experience.
Right.
So then you do that, then you get the FOID card?
You don't have to have any of that to get a FOID. You just have to apply. But I recommend that you don't do it that way. I think you should take a basic fundamental course. You should know the basic nomenclature of a firearm, how it functions, and what the basic safety measures are and the risk, right, of a firearm. I mean, because if you don't know any of that and you just go out and get a FOID card and you just start, it's like gambling, right? I mean, you're just messing with stuff that can kill you without knowing any, without having any knowledge.
FOID card without any training?
Yeah,
I didn't know
got
that.
a FOID card.
The FOID card allows you to purchase and transport firearms.
And transport as well. I thought you could only have at home. No, you can transport as well with a FOID? And then concealed carry, you can have it with
Concealed carry means you can have it loaded on your persons.
So the FOID card, and the only reason I got mine, my grandfather passed away, and he had a case, and my brother and I assume a couple cousins, they were all able to get... I picked
inherit some of his stuff.
I picked out a firearm from my grandfather's case.
Yeah.
It's a 1951 Marlin rifle.
Yeah, a lever action?
Yeah. Has a little scope on it. It shoots 22 long and short.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah.
But I just have it as more of a gift. I'm not
sentimental.
Yeah, I'm not out here firing that thing. But I had got a FOID card, so I would be able to legally possess it.
Sure.
and have it.
Yeah, and I moved to Iowa, so I don't have to have a FOID card anymore.
Right.
That's an
Illinois thing. Yeah.
Huh.
You know what's wild to me? I teach the Bassett class. It's a required class for anyone who serves alcohol. I teach that class to bartenders and restaurants. The FOID card is not a valid form of ID when purchasing alcohol. And I just find that
strange.
So weird because it's a
weird.
state-issued ID. Has your picture and date of birth.
And they literally pull all that stuff from your driver's license.
Right. But you cannot use that. If you had a FOID card, a bartender at a bar is not supposed to serve you alcohol if that's your only form of ID.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. Little Snapple fact for
That
you
is a
here today.
Snapple fact, yeah. That's wild, I guess. I mean, I'm not surprised, though,
Illinois.
I'm not surprised. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. Because it literally has your photo from your driver's license. It has your birth date. It has your address. It has when it was issued, when it expires, all those things.
So you spent some time in the Army Reserves?
The National Guard.
Or National Guard, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about that. Right out of high school, or how'd that go?
No, man. So, I was working at the railroad when I went into the Guard. It was 2009. Yeah, 2009. Shipped back off, went to Fort Benning. In
Georgia, right?
Yep, down in Georgia.
Okay.
So I went to the 178 Alpha Company in the 178 in Bartonville as an enlisted soldier, and then A couple years later, I went to officer candidate school. Went down to Fort McClellan, Alabama, and then through the IMA in Springfield, and knocked out officer candidate school. Went to officer basic leader course, the infantry. They call it IBOLC. It might be called something different now, but that's what it was called at the time. Back to Fort Benning for that. I think, let's see, IBOLC. I graduated IBOLC in 2014, I think. So I was a second lieutenant. And then from there it goes first lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, and then you get into the GO, the general officer. So for me, right now I just made major back in April.
Good.
So sorry about that. I thought that was off.
You're all good. So you made major in April?
Yeah, back in April. I was offered my 04. So I took a job as a range OIC up in Marseilles Training Center. So basically the Marseilles Training Center is, which I guess you guys probably don't know any of this, but like for us, it's like the Fort McCoy of Illinois, basically where all the units in the state of Illinois train there. It's a large training area, like thousands of acres. And, they have we have like a forward operating base. They do we can do urban operations stuff. We have like a little mock villages, and, there's land navigation courses, all that stuff there. I mean, all the firearms stuff. So like heavy weapons and, pistol and rifle qualification, stuff like that. So every year these soldiers, when they have to, qualify, this is where they go.
Mm-hmm. And then you're an instructor there?
So I'm not an instructor. I'm just the officer in charge of the team that facilitates those ranges for all the units in the state.
I see you and this is just an assumption, I see you in your element when you're in that environment.
Oh yeah,
is that accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
I could see you it not even feeling like a job. Like this is fun. Right. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I wish like NCOs, and the enlisted get to have more of that fun. Mm-hmm. As an officer, especially when you make it to like 04, like field grade, it's just more oversight and like leadership and mentorship. It's not like you don't get to get in there. I mean, you can. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you can get in there and get dirty, and I like to do that to show the soldiers, that hey, I'm not done yet. I'm not above this yet. But you also got to be careful because the higher ranking you get, you don't want to get too far down in the weeds because it's just kind of like not your place. You know what I mean? Like, there's a hierarchy. I mean, we have ranks and structure for a reason, And if you're all the way up here and you're down here micromanaging and meddling with everybody down here, then it creates more problems.
Well, and it's someone else's job. You're stepping on someone's toes, right?
Yeah, and no one likes to be micromanaged, right? I mean, not even in the military. Although micromanaging is kind of the military.
Sure.
But there's just do's and don'ts, and I guess you kind of learn that as you go through. And I've had leaders. In the Army, a lot of times we like to say trust but verify, and that's a great thing to go by. And I try to do that with my businesses too. I try to trust your people. It's okay to verify that they're doing the right thing. Even the people that I've trusted the most, I still have I want to make sure they're not, everything's on the up and up. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I don't do it like every day. Every minute, I'm not harassing them and following around with a microscope. But it's like it's okay to verify. That's how you keep people. Keep them honest, keep them on their job, and then you're able to mentor too. You're able to, if something's not right, that's your time to interject and be like, hey, I see what you're doing. You're doing, you're trying hard. You're doing a great job, but maybe try it this way. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get better results.
So if you started that in 2008.
2009. I enlisted in 2009.
So I was going to say that's probably not. I think we're about the same age, but not the traditional. Usually goes like right after high school, right?
Well, no? You can enlist. I mean, you can enlist in the Guard at 17. I think it's what it's still what it used to be. I'm pretty sure it's still the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you would have been.
But you don't have to. You don't have to. Yeah.
So what made you in 2009 make that?
I mean, I just had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends that were still doing it, and a lot of friends had been deployed, and I really wanted to deploy. And I really wanted to deploy as an infantryman, so...
Did you get that opportunity?
I did. Well, I did and I didn't. I didn't get to deploy as an infantryman, but I did deploy. So, I kind of checked one of those boxes. I'm hoping to do another deployment before I retire. But I am looking forward to retirement now because I'm getting closer to that, to that time. So get your 20-year letter, you can start thinking about retirement. But also for me, I stay in pretty good shape. I like the challenge. I mean, I don't know if I'll hang it up at 20. I might be a 30-year guy. I'm 44, and I mean, I just went to mountain warfare school at 42, and that's a young man's game, man.
Right.
It was brutal. It was punishment.
You're surrounded with some young bucks.
I was around a lot of young bucks.
Yeah. Were you the oldest one?
Yeah.
Were you?
I was the oldest one in my class. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. I think by about 8 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you're not over there getting last place, I'm sure.
I was not getting last place. No. I actually was I was proud of myself, but I wasn't first place, man. There was some studs.
Some dogs in there, huh?
There were some studs. I mean, but they were like, so the one other guy that I met he was from the Illinois Guard. He was an E4 and he was like 19. And the dude was like a specimen, man. I mean, he was a stud. And I'm like 42, like broken, right? I mean, I got full ACL repair,
sure,
full rotator cuff surgeries, two surgeries, facial reconstructive surgery. Like, I mean, beat up, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, so much pain in my body. And so, like, the first day I remember of mountain warfare, man, they take you out. It's in Vermont, right? In the mountains in Vermont. And they take you out, and I'd kind of heard some people talk about, they're like, man, the first couple of days they're just gonna smoke us like to death, right? And just get everybody to quit who's weak, get the weak people to quit, and that's what they do. No, you're all geared up. You have a packing list. You got to pack your ruck, and it weighs. So with all the ropes and all the gear, all the climbing and like your rope gear, all your stuff. I don't know, man. It's crazy. I mean, it probably weighs 80 pounds, right? And then, you got your packing list, you got your uniform, your packing list, your bag, everything's all good on the up and up. You got to have so much water, all this stuff. And everybody forms up outside, like early. Like, I don't even remember, but it was early, right? Like, it was still like dark. And then we're standing there and they come out first thing and they're just like, all right. And everything's kind of cool and chill. Like, they're not yelling at you. It's kind of like a gentleman's course, really, where they don't scream at you or anything. It's not like air assault. Like, I went to air assault. It was just 2 weeks of hazing. Like, you just get screamed at and they just smoke you. And then, like, by the time it's all over, you're jumping out of a Black Hawk at 150 feet, riding the ghost whip, and you're like, and then it's over. You're like, damn, that was crazy. But mountain warfare was like crazy because they just like, they treat you good. They talk to you good. They don't scream at you really, but it's just like, all right, this is kind of scary because I'm used to it being the other way. And they're being so cool. It's like a gentleman's course. But they literally take you out, and then first thing, they're like, follow me. And you go in a file, and they take you up this giant ski slope. And by the time you get to the top, you're like, busted, especially at 42, bro. Mm-hmm. And then they turn, and they take you back down, and you're like, oh, thank gosh, like we're going down, right? Yeah. And then you get to the bottom, and you see them, because like, unless you're first in line, I'm like probably like, in the back half because I'm old and I'm getting past, right? But I can see the snake or whatever. I can see it turn at the bottom and start coming back up again. And I'm like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me! Like we're gonna climb this thing again. Mm-hmm. And that literally went on for like hours.
You just jump in the other line as they're going by?
No.
I'm kidding.
No.
You know what I mean? Like here they come and just whoop.
No, you take it down and you go back up. And I don't remember how long that went on for, but it went on for a long time. And I remember when it finally stopped, I was like, oh, I made it. Like, this is it. Like, thank gosh. Like, so many people quit. Mm-hmm. And then we take off walking. We were at the bottom on that last time. We take off walking. We go out on this road, and we walk flat on this flat, straight road for a long time. And I'm like, this is great. Like, this is like a cool down. We weren't. We were walking to the base of another mountain, of an actual mountain, where we went up this mountain road for miles and miles. And at this point, everyone is smoked. We're tanked. Like, everything hurts. I've used so many muscles I hadn't used in like 20 years. It was awful. And I remember the road was a gravel road, and it just like winded like this, right? And so every time you get to the curve, you're like, you go around the curve and you're just like thinking you're going to see like everyone standing there, like the finish line. And it just broke your soul.
Yeah.
Man.
How defeating.
It defeated your soul. And it went on. I mean, it was such a long day. And then that went on for about 3 days. And once you made it through like the three or 4 days, the first 3 or 4 days was nothing but that. Ski slope first thing in the morning, and then they break you off up a different mountain each time. And then after you make it through that, the real training starts. Then it's like, okay, these people want to be here. These people are in shape. They came prepared. Now we can get to training. And so that's how they do it.
And those people that quit, they're done. They leave.
They're done. They get on a flight. You're going home.
Get out.
Now, if you go through all of
out.
that, what do you get? Like, what do you win? Like,
You don't win anything.
What do you win?
You win the. You
have a
win.
prize.
You win the knowledge. Yeah, you win the knowledge of being mountain qualified. You know, you learn all the rope systems, all the knots.
Sure.
You learn how to survive. You learn how to shoot, move, and communicate, and all that stuff in the mountain.
I know that there are different categories. Like, there's the Marines, the Army,
Rangers,
right?
Army. I don't know all of them.
Yeah.
What is that for? Like, is that for the Army?
Yeah, this is Army, not
Army,
warfare.
okay.
But I mean, other branches can go to the school.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was Air Force guys there, Air Force and Marine. I think Marines do it too. Yeah, Marines were there.
Yeah.
There were Marines there.
Okay.
Yeah, just the Army owns the school and conducts the school, but other branches can do it.
Which one of those is the hardest one to
What, as far as like the branches?
Like Air Force, Marines, the Army.
I mean, we're all gonna say our branch is the toughest. You know? Yeah. I mean,
What is
I think
the one that goes in first usually, like the Ranger.
Yeah,
or
Rangers,
Navy SEALs.
like Rangers lead the way. SEALs, those are like elite of the branch, right? So like the Army Rangers and SOF, what they call SOF, Special Operations Forces, the Green Berets. Those are Army.
Okay.
And then you got Navy SEALs, are Navy. Marines, they have like Marine Recon Force, like recons. There's all these different elite. There's a lot of them, but. That's a lot more training. You're talking, that's a lot more training and a lot more abuse and a lot more dedication.
Yeah, those are some bad memories.
So for the top guys in the Army, like the very top group, what do they do that the other people don't do? Like what skills or what can they like going up a mountain 10 times?
They're just experts in their craft. I mean, when you're talking like, those like these mission sets, these close quarter battles and small unit tactics, and being able to infiltrate across enemy lines and extract people or things, or go in and take out targets, enemy targets and stuff like that. I mean, those are guys that like that's all they do. Like that's all they do every day. They live and breathe it, and they have to, because that's otherwise, it's like anything, right? If you want to be successful, if you want to survive, you want to live. You got to be good at your job. I mean, those guys are good. I mean, I got buddies that do it.
Is the type of guy that went to Gyozama?
They're just those type of guys, but they're just normal guys. I mean, I got buddies that are active duty special forces guys. Lots of guys, that I know over the years. They're just normal guys, man. I mean,
sure.
You see them, just like me and us sitting here right now, and they'd just be talking to you just the same way. They're normal guys. They're dedicated and they work really hard. They put in years of training and work, starting from the time they were teenagers. Maybe not necessarily knowing that that's what they were going to do, but they're supreme athletes usually. Not always. Some guys, I've known guys that are just country boys that are just strong and hard headed and just refuse to quit.
So your mental capability.
And most of it is mental, man. I mean, if you give up easy, if you quit like on a little bit of pain, then you're never going to make it in anything like that. You're not gonna make it in the military in general.
Victor, what's it like in Brazil? Is there, like quite often here in the States after high school, some people will join different branches of military. Is that common there?
I see the main difference compared to Brazil. Here, people see there's way more passion for serving the country than in Brazil. Brazil, nobody wants to go to the military at all. Like here, people feel proud. People are proud of serving. You know. In Brazil, nobody wants, so it's mandatory. Yeah. The government have a list. You gotta go.
Right, so it's like the draft. Yeah, like you're going. Yeah.
Yes.
If I had those Brazilian beaches, I wouldn't be trying to sign up for the military.
They're trying to go either. Like, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm just gonna stay.
Brazil don't fight with anybody.
Sure.
Everybody says if we get into a war, we're gonna lose for sure. People will be jumping the carnival. People will be drinking. Nobody's worried about war.
Sure.
We don't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine if we get into something major or military. We are not ready for that. the army, you know.
Well,
one thing I've always thought, I mean, even since a young age, and I didn't do it, but if I could go back, I truly believe the whole boot camp experience, like to go, let's see what you're made of. Do you have it? And the confidence that would give many of our young men and women, I think would do wonders for our entire society, of just being able to be pushed outside of our comfort level a little bit or a lot, whatever it may be. But I've always thought that is something, I mean, if given the chance, I want to go. I want to see where am I going to break? You know, I think that is interesting. You know, I've only been able to do that through sports or, you know, working out and saying, okay, I've had enough. I want to go home. But that's way too easy when you're actually really like, no, you're not done yet. You know, how many more push-ups could you really do if a guy is sitting there yelling at you and you know you're getting kicked out of here if you don't, or whatever that may be. I've always kind of had that interest in wanting to see how far. And I might be disappointed leaving the place, you know, I don't know. But I think that it's the character building that I think would fall in line with a lot of that, I think would be impactful.
In mountain warfare was definitely a test to me. And I still think at my age, I'm always trying to like continue to test myself and see, you know, what I can and can't accomplish. And, you know, when I was deployed, we had an opportunity to do what they call the Norwegian Ruck March. And it was in Africa. I was in Africa at the time, right? So it was like 114 degrees or so, you know, like it was hot, right? Really, really hot. But the Norwegian Ruck March is the same thing. You have to have your pack, and it's loaded, I think, with the Army. The minimum weight you can have, dry weight, I think is 35 pounds. But then you have to have water, and you got to plan for your water because it's 18.6 miles. And you only have so much time to do it. And you'd think it's a long time, but it's really not. Because, first of all, it's super hot. 18.6 miles of carrying all that weight on your back in full uniform and boots. You're not wearing like tennis shoes and shorts and a tank top. You're in full battle rattle. And that was one of the... I had never done the Norwegian Ruck March before, but that was tough for me. Your body... I've never had my body want to quit anything so bad in my life. I hurt so bad. As a matter of fact, when I completed it, I made it with only like, man, I think less than a minute, maybe, or right around a minute something left before I was gonna. Could you? And I'll tell you, you want to see defeat? Watch people come in 3 seconds past the time on a Norwegian Ruck, because especially where we did it in Africa, it was hot. I mean, it was miserable conditions. It was terrible. I mean, I saw people like going loopy because of dehydration. People falling out, boom, smacking the ground just because they were so dehydrated. You know, a lot of that is you got to plan for all that and know how to ration your water supply. Even though they did try to like bring up tables and people try to rush people water and stuff like that, but I never had anything I wanted to quit so bad in my life, man, ever. And I just kept telling myself like, you have to keep going. Like you cannot quit. I've never quit anything. Like you can't quit. You got to keep going. But I remember that feeling of wanting to quit so bad. And I couldn't hardly walk for like 2 weeks after that was done. The blisters, like my feet were so banged up. I had the whole bottoms of my feet were nothing but one big blister. I had like cut like my toenails. Like I think all the toenails on both my feet fell off except for like my pinky toes. All the toenails were dead. They fell off. I mean, it was so bad. It was bad. It was bad. And I think at the time I was only like 4 months out of ACL surgery. So I just had full ACL. So I had muscular atrophy really bad in my right leg. So I had a bunch of hurdles to climb with that whole deal. But I made it. And I watched a lot of people not make it.
That would be.
And it was defeating. I felt really bad for some of those people that like made it to the end, but they just didn't make it in time. Right?
So it doesn't matter
because you don't get the you don't get the certification, you don't get the pin and stuff if you don't make it.
3 seconds late,
brutal.
I mean, there's people that came in, seconds,
right,
and minutes even, but even a minute, you're like, dang man, I just did all that. It takes hours, right? You just complete it, and you're just a little late.
Brutal.
Yeah, I even knew people that didn't make it the first time and tried it a second time.
And still not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, kudos for trying again.
Yeah. And I was 41 when I did that.
Start over.
Yeah. So
no way.
I just had a buddy ask me the other day on the phone. He's like, crazy, man. You just, you're bored and you went to Mountain Warfare. What's going to be your challenge this year? What are you going to do this year? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I know what you're going to do. You're going to start a podcast.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to start a podcast. I think.
I want to hit that. I don't want us to run out of time. But
yeah.
I do want. You had kind of shared that, and I'm excited to see what you guys are going to put out. So why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, my good friends Tony and Bree. Tony and Bree, great people. I think we come from such diverse places. I think it'll be interesting. I think we have a lot to offer people. We've all shared our own, struggles, our own successes. Tony, I don't know if I should give too much away, but I mean, like I said earlier, Tony is like a recovering addict. He's the guy's inspiration to me. He's done wonderful things. I've never really felt like I was like an alcoholic or anything, but I've struggled with alcohol a little bit in the past. Probably every bad decision I've ever made in my life probably was under the influence of alcohol. And I've done really well the past year or so. I first got back from my deployment. I struggled a little bit because I had trouble sleeping. I had anxiety real bad. And unfortunately I was like, I thought drinking would help, and it didn't, it didn't help. So, but I just went like 3.5 months with no drinks. I ended up having some wine and a couple drinks like last weekend or the weekend before. Nothing too crazy, but then afterwards, like the next day, I kind of felt guilty because I was like, man, I had such a good thing going, and I don't need it. Like I didn't like go out and like burn the club down or you know what I mean, like I used to. But I felt kind of guilty because I was just like, I had such a good thing going. So I'm back. I'm kind of back on the wagon again, I guess you could say. Since that last weekend, I'm gonna try to go again. And for me, I don't really have any like goals. Like I said, I didn't really feel like I was addicted to alcohol, but I do feel like it caused me, like I said, it's caused me a lot of pain over the years, and it's caused a lot of people I love pain. So.
Yeah. Well, it's important to always check it. Like, you got to check yourself. Yeah. I do a sober month once a year, if not 2 months.
Yeah.
In the sober month, too, is crazy because for me, at about week 3, I start going, I don't know if I'll ever drink again.
Right.
I feel great.
You feel so good.
I start sleeping good. My energy, my jokes are funnier. Like
I don't know about that.
But no, I just feel like I'm like start vibing, and it's like, man, I don't know. I definitely, since I've started doing it, I've noticed a shift on the desire. I can go hang out with some friends now and not feel like I have to have a drink or two
to fit in,
to participate.
Right.
It's a big difference. So I like that.
And I think it's important too. I mean, like who you surround yourself with too, right? I mean, I don't know. I was big on social media, and then I got off. And actually, I'm going to get off again, other than the podcast. Hopefully, my goal is to like get rid of everything except for the podcast page. Just because I think my life was so much more peaceful when I wasn't on it, man. Yeah. I mean, people are so like,
even just the distractions, dude.
It's
you
just
can
the
sit
distractions.
there and waste 45 minutes for no reason.
And people are so hateful, man. I don't know. I've kind of learned that my circle has gotten really small over the last year, probably the last 2 years, but the last year specifically, it's gotten really small, man. Really, really small. And I like it because you kind of take a step back and you can see that maybe those people weren't my friends, I mean, the only time you ever hear from them is like when they want to do something like that involves alcohol or this and that. Like, when do they ever just call and be like, hey man, like, what are you doing? How you been? Do you want to go to lunch? Like, you kind of step back and you look at it from the outside in. And for me, it was just like cut. My circle got really small this last year, and I'm just like, I don't need those people, and I don't need this stuff, and I don't need social media to validate who I am or give me confidence. And I think that's what I relied on before.
Sure.
I mean, I used to make all kinds of cringy videos, dude. I mean, I did. I was like, I don't know. I must have been.
I've seen a few.
I must have been suffering.
What type of video?
I must have been suffering, from some kind of.
He's more, like maybe if you wouldn't have done that sober. More of those.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
You watch it the next morning, you're like, I probably wouldn't have put that up.
I probably wouldn't have put that up. Yeah.
Right. I know what you mean. But I think for one, just being able to identify that. In seeking difference, seeking change, and if you want change, if you want different, we have to do things different.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I like that, and good for you for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super happy right now. I've been really focusing on myself and my family. Like I said, I'm excited about the sale of the Tac Shack, and I hope people continue to support it because I built it. It was my dream. I love it, and I know that people, all of our all of our loyal customers love it, and I hope that everyone continues to support the new owners if they do in fact take over. I'm going to be there to support them as well, and you know, get them through the handoff, you know, the changeover. But I'm looking forward to moving my life completely, you know, to Iowa, with the exception of the podcast.
Sure.
I'm excited about the podcast. But
so what's the mission of the podcast? What topic? What do you guys?
Well, it's called Grit and Grace, and basically we want to talk about, you know, kind of like what we're talking about here, right? Success, struggle, overcoming all that, you know. You know, I mean, the mental health crisis. You know, unfortunately, I've lost friends to suicide. I got lots of soldiers and people that I care about that struggle, myself included, you know, with mental health stuff, just anxiety, depression, and just, it's not easy being a man. You know, it's not. And I mean, women deal with it too. I'm not trying to make it like a, you know, like a gender thing, but
so Grit and Grace.
Grit and Grace.
Nice. Yeah. And so you said Tony,
and Bree, and myself.
and you. Gotcha. Well, is that gonna? Do you know? Will that be a YouTube thing, or will that?
Well, and that's something that we're talking about. I think we're gonna do it on YouTube. We did make a Facebook page. We haven't done anything with it yet. I think we have our banner up. I don't know if you've seen the banner. Did I send it to you? I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
I will send it to you.
Yeah, do that.
But we basically came up with the write up and what we're gonna do, and the kind of the focus of our conversations. And then it's gonna be just having guests on like you guys did with me today.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's one thing, Victor and I, when we started this, I mean, just kind of, we wanted to laugh a little, learn a lot. We didn't know if it was learn a little, laugh a lot, or laugh a little, learn a lot. We still don't know. But those are our two things, and just absolutely love getting the opportunity to sit down with people like you.
Well, thanks.
People with good stories.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in and sharing some of your journey, and really appreciate your time, Justin.
All right, man. It's great to see you guys.
Always.
I appreciate it.
You guys, it's Justin Lipes here on our Talk About It podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and check out or keep an eye out for Grit and Grace. It sounds like that's going to be a pretty good product.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank you.
Talk About It podcast. I'm Loren Follmer.
I'm Victor Dantas.
And peace out. Thank you for watching this episode of the Talk About It podcast.
I'm Victor Dantas.
I'm Loren Follmer.
And we would encourage you guys to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell. It's gonna be right below the video, so you
hit the bell,
so you know when the next episode is up.
We appreciate all the support.
Thank you.